Okay, yeah, I'm Jack Pell and my exhibition is Byland Super Saga at Humber Street Gallery. So the main themes for the exhibition, I would say all of the work in the exhibition is sort of tied together under this sort of overarching theme of waterways and this relationship between land and water and us, you know, the people that live in this landscape. Yeah, and I'm sort of trying to use that as a metaphorical kind of link between all of the works. There's other themes, including like class, so that's been a sort of big theme in my work generally. I would say that's usually something that comes into my work. Sort of growing up as a working class person, growing up in Hull, and feeling like there maybe was a lack of culture, or if there was culture I didn't know about it really. So it's kind of feels really nice to come back and be able to do something like this. That's kind of, you know, it's where the ideas for my work come from. So being able to come back to it and kind of do work in Hull again is it's great. So I think my interest in sort of folklore, I wouldn't necessarily say I was always interested in it. It probably started with sort of being interested in fantasy, and that being a kind of something I grew up with, and that being a kind of interest. And I think that sort of developed into, well, where did these people who wrote fantasy or made fantasy stories, you know, where did they get their ideas from? And that's where it all stems from. And I think I sort of realised that I didn't know anything about the kind of folklore of where I grew up. So I think I've spent a lot of my career as an artist exploring that and trying to get to the bottom of it, and in a way to try and tie it together as well, because it's so sporadic and there isn't a kind of mainstream overview of say folklore in Yorkshire, or even folklore in East Yorkshire. So just being able to kind of maybe bring some of those things together that's a really important theme, I would say. And yeah, with the Humber as well, you know, I think that has always fascinated me. Just the landscape of it, and it has this sort of psychological effect, I think. Yeah. I don't know if there's an existing story that I could link it to. I think it's because I've sort of made my own characters. I've kind of created, in a way, I've tried to create a folk story from bits of history that I do know. So Fleet, for instance, is kind of based around this idea of the longships, Viking longships sailing up the Humber, and that being a kind of visual image, and this film is sort of taking that and sort of making something out of it, you know, trying to tell its own tale, I suppose. There's lots of folk tales from the area, and every village and every town seems to have its own, and I've kind of looked at a lot of them and taken bits and kind of sort of made something new out of it, I suppose, rather than say focusing on just one. This is probably the most I've filmed on location. So I've done bits of location filming before, but as you say, today it's sort of you realise that it presents its own set of challenges of just knowing ahead of time, you know, what you're gonna be able to do in the weather. That's, you know, that you've got, and we can't film on any other day, so this is what we've got basically. But yeah, things like, you know, I mean, I've never built models before, so the boat's completely new, and the bridges, the iron bridge works. I've never worked with 3D printing before. I've never really had the, I mean, I've never had access to a 3D printer, so that's, you know, that's totally new as well. I'd say all of the works that I'm making for this exhibition are using something new that I haven't done before. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, mainly sculptural things. I'm not used to working with sculpture. In terms of artists from this area, I'd say Hull time-based arts being relatively recent. They were a studio that worked with any time-based art, so that includes sort of filmmaking and music and performance. And basically I went into a charity shop down Newland Art a few years ago and found the book that they published of all of their previous projects, and it had a bit about every artist that was involved with the group. And yeah, I think they've been a massive influence. I never would have known that there was any kind of experimental filmmaking or performance in Hull until I found out about them. And it definitely feels like if I'm sort of adding to any kind of legacy, you know, I'd really see them as a kind of yeah, something that came before. Absolutely. Yeah, I hope that when people come and visit the exhibition, that it seems fun and light-hearted, and that it doesn't have to be really serious, and also that you can let yourself be inspired by the place that you grew up. And if anyone takes anything away from it, I'd hope that it was that you know, that there's always more to find out about the place you grew up, and that's what I've been finding out, and it continues to be interesting and fun, and also that history is as weird as the folk tales that people make up, so it's worth looking into.